Good day, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be with you today. We are here today because of our commitment to transforming our economy. In particular, this session, it focuses on developing human capital. We want to capacitate individuals, our community, our government, and our society at large. Things have changed, colleagues and friends, especially post the pandemic. We are seeing hybrid work environment. We're seeing new ways of learning and living. They are all here to stay with us. So this is a change of era. Yes. Therefore, we have to find new ways of value creation, but more importantly, though, they must have both the economic and the social impact. And we must do this in a much more inclusive way. We must make sure that we bring in our youth, we bring in women, we bring in people in general, so that they become productive citizens of our country. I brought to our esteemed panelists who have navigated this space successfully. They will share their thoughts and experiences with you. And let me start by handing you over to Nana Serapelo. Nana, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Babalwa. My name is Nana Serapelo. I'm currently the acting head of human capital at Netstar. I've been with Netstar for about 4 years. However, I've got about 10 years overall HR generalist experience. Netstar is a telematics and vehicle tracking company based in Midrand, but we've got a global as well as a national footprint.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you very much. Andy, over to you.
Good day, Babalwa, fellow panelists and guests. My name is Andy Sewell. I'm a director of Paladin Consulting, a company that's focused on skills development at a company, at a sector, and at a national level. I recently completed my tenure with an organization called BPESA, where I was CEO, during which time our key focus was on using the growth opportunity of that sector to contribute to and shape economic transformation in South Africa. And in this journey, demand-led skilling, the subject of our panel discussion today, played a very key role. It's a privilege to join this panel today and participating with my colleague, Dr. Sidwal Shukweni, whom I work closely with at BPESA and continue to do so as he leads the transformation portfolio in merchants. Thank you for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Great, Andy. If you were to describe yourself as an animal, Andy, how would you describe yourself?
Oh goodness, Babalwa, you do have ways of introducing us. I would say my star sign is a Leo, so I'm going to go with that, with the lion. And the characteristics of the lion that I try to live up to in my daily life are being confident, bright and optimistic, even when times are tough, to be decisive and courageous in making decisions, and always to pull up my sleeves and be ready to work and lead from the front. But most importantly, I think, like the lion, it's to appreciate the people around you and be warm and compassionate at all times.
Thank you, Andy. Nana, you can't get off the hook on this one. Share with us how you describe yourself if you were to be an animal.
The animal that I would actually describe and pick in this particular instance would be an elephant. For me, really, the fact that it's such a family-orientated animal resonates with me. The memory of an animal. So animals' memories are just, extremely great in terms of how they remember memories, how they remember situations, incidents, things like that. As well as the fact that if you look at elephants, they're quite massive. You know that if an elephant steps on you, it literally can kill you. However, they are such peaceful animals. So unless provoked, they wouldn't ordinarily then, attack. And that's how I approach everything. We approach things with peace. We do not do any fighting. We resolve any conflict through communication, through, engagement. That's how I approach everything that I do. And like I stated earlier on, the family unit is extremely important. So even in how I approach my work as well, that family unit and ensuring that people feel included in the organization and how we work as a team. So that's the animal that really I actually would say resonates with me and how I do things.
Thanks, Nana. Thank you very much. Let's now move on to Shani Naidu. Just an introduction, Shani.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to have me on this panel. It's really, I feel privileged to be here to share some insights on the topic. I think it's very close to my heart. I function very much in the SME space, so business training and development is something I see all the time. I see failures, I see the pain. So for me, skills development is really at the heart of transitioning economies, transitioning human capital, and again, new age, new diversification, new ways of thinking. I bring into it the neurological aspect of enablement. I use it in my training dynamics. I do financial mentoring and coaching. I'm a business strategic advisor. I'm a business rescue practitioner as well. So everything relating to business, team dynamics, involving human capital and elevating human capital to its maximum is what I do. And that is what I think the economy needs at this point, because it is a new way of enabling critical innovation and empowering intrinsic human capital that was never done before. So I hope I can add value to that.
Wow, Shani. And then talk about an animal now.
Yes, I'm very much a lion. From a strategic perspective, that is how I got to where I am. I had to dig very deep within myself in the early stages of starting my entrepreneurial journey. And again, I chose a neurological path to do that. So strategic dynamic is vital for me in everything I do. Encapsulating the lion, its power, its intrinsic power, it's not external power. It is strategic thinking, which must be intrinsic first before you can roll it out. It is analyzing and watching and timing and waiting for the right moment to execute. That is who I am, and that is how I do what I do.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Shani. Thank you very much. Let's now move to Sidwell Shikweni. Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Sidwell Shikweni. I'm the Transformation Director for Merchant South Africa. We are a wholly owned Dimension Data company. We see ourselves as a business in service to society. We create sustainable and meaningful future for the youth of this country in the main. And in terms of my personality, aligned to that of an animal, I see myself as a dolphin. It's a category of an animal under the mammals. And a dolphin, it's known for its high brain power, for its intelligence. It's sociable, friendly, and caring. And that describes, among others, who I am.
Wow. Thank you, Sidwell. Colleagues and friends in the room, I'm sure you can see that we have indeed deep skills in this room, So let me start by throwing the first question to demonstrate what we have. So the topic of today is demand-led skills development as an enabler of economic transformation. I just want Nana to lead us in this discussion and share with us her thought. What is that, Nana? Most people don't understand what do you mean when you talk about demand-led skills development, especially when you talk about it in the South African context, and how will it looks like in our context?
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much, Babala. So for me, really, there are two aspects that I will touch on, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, so that I can allow the rest of the panel. But when we look at demand-led skills development, for me, it really talks to empowering and equipping our people with skills that not only meet our immediate needs for the local and global economy, but they also make our people ready to respond to the ever-changing job market. So earlier on, we were chatting about COVID-19, and we've seen how COVID-19 actually propelled businesses to actually then respond to demand-led skills development, in that we saw that, skilled force was our main competitive advantage over anything else. But if we look at our unemployment rate as well, it's actually quite, worryingly high. So we've got these graduates that have got qualifications, but they don't necessarily have the real-time skills that actually equip them to be able to actually participate in our economy effectively. So what then demand-led skills development really looks like for me is, firstly, we need to ensure that the new entrants into the job markets, these graduates, we equip them with the relevant skills that they need to actually be effective in the jobs that they're entering. We need to partner with organizations such as the SETAs as well, as employers, so that we then factor these programs aligned to the skills that we need, as well as ensure that the community at large also benefits from these skills development initiatives that we are working on. But secondly, we can't only then, only look at the new entrants into the job market. We've got people that are already in the job market, people that are working, that have been in the workforce for about 5 years, 10 years, 20 plus. And we need to actually then also take them into consideration when we actually look at what does demand-led skills development look like. And for me, it says then, these people understand that jobs have changed. COVID-19 actually forced us to change how we think, how we do things, how we actually perform our jobs. So we then need to ensure that when we, factor and design skills development initiatives for our people, we make sure that we give them skills that allow them to be mobile and agile enough to actually then be able to perform jobs at any global economy, across either nationally or across the internationally as well. So this means that, like I stated earlier on, let's partner with the SETAs, let's engage as employers as well. We need to have then feedback mechanisms in place to say, if this is a skills initiative that I have, is it really responding to what the real-time needs are? But is it also equipping our people for the future needs? Because we know that a skill that is relevant today may ordinarily not be relevant tomorrow. So how do we then keep abreast of that? So we need to then have that partnership as both corporate and private, corporate and public sector, as well as the government. So really for me, that's in context what, demand-led skills development looks like, both from a new entrant perspective and people that are in the workforce itself.
Thanks, Nana. Shani, tell us what's hindering us from achieving what Nana is talking about. I'm asking you because you wear that neurological lens in you. I think you are the right person to talk to us about what are these challenges, what's stopping us.
Okay, thank you for the question, and I think that's a vital question because it impacts every single one of us, you, me, all of us here today, and everyone who's listening. So there are many factors that impact us as individuals and that impact companies from a skills development perspective and from a learning perspective. But in addition to that, we need to go one step further. And the one step further is the neurological component that affects everything that we do. The neurological component talks about our frontal cortex, which is this part in the front of your brain here, your executive function capacity, which is here, and the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that's sitting more towards the back of the head. Now, these two components affect everything that we do, everything we don't do. It will affect the extent of the success of skills development in rollout and output in companies, and it will impact how this affects the economy at large, be it locally or globally. So, for example, all of us come from an era that has had many difficulties and setbacks attached to it, Be you black, blue, white, green, purple, it makes no difference. And we have all been impacted on a neurological level. The standard functionality of each individual is emotional, which means your amygdala, you make decisions and take directions and steps in your life based on emotion, which is from your amygdala. If your foundation has a lot of negative impact from your early years right through your teenage years, development years, into your learning and development, your educational sector, you coming into the workforce as part of human capital, all of that is going to remain a fundamental factor that impacts how you function as part of a team or part of bigger human capital towards output or productivity. Some of us have had damaging impact, and it instills us with fear, with unnecessary questioning in our heads when we want to do something. It allows us to look at another individual and have dissatisfactory interpretations and acceptance about that individual. It's all coming from a level that we are not able to control because we don't know how, but we can learn, because neuroscience is a learning thing, right? It took me 4 years to change who I was to who I have become. And that proves to me that it can be done, right? But we must be shown there's the avenue. Whether you come from poverty, whether you come from emotional abuse, whether you come from whatever type of abuse it is, we all have some sort of abuse. I'm using the word in a holistic way here. We can all be diverted from that and retrained. We can unlearn and relearn and allow our brain to develop new neural pathways that make us more conducive to agility and adaptability, which is what we are facing now in the country. COVID has shook us in a way that we never saw coming. We didn't see it coming. We were never prepared for it. We didn't know what to do if such a situation came, and it hit us 6 love, every one of us. Businesses who were in business for years have closed their doors. What does that tell us? It tells us that we don't have the agile skills and the adaptability and the critical thinking, analytical skills that will allow us to navigate the stormy waters. And that's where we're in. So now we're coming out of COVID. Great thing, great to know. But still, we sit with the damage and the effect of how do we transition businesses and human capital out of the damage of COVID, because that too is now sitting in every one of our cells in our body, and it's impacting the neurological pathways that we use to think, to problem solve. When we think about graduates and our students who are supposedly the power force of the future, we have to think very carefully, because that power force has been damaged. That power force is no longer the force that we thought it would be eras gone by. We have to change the educational sector, and we have to change the teaching modalities that incorporate a neurological perspective so that we enable the learners to think and see in a different way by utilizing their frontal cortex more instead of their amygdala. We also need to adapt people to a values and belief system of integrating human capital, of acceptance and diversification, but also by allowing a proactiveness to develop. We don't know how to be proactive. We were never taught how to be proactive. The educational system does not teach you how to be proactive. University graduates come out, and as Nana was saying, they don't have the skills, the demand skills that the economy needs now. They don't have that. They're coming out with textbook skills, hoping to walk into a big company, earn a great salary, and that's where I'm going to be. That world doesn't exist. From my perspective, that's where I come in with the neurological component.
Wow, very interesting thoughts there, Shani. I mean, there is an old saying that the illiterate people these days is not those who have not been to school. It's right. People who can't relearn, unlearn, right. And learn new ways. I mean, you have touched on that in a very, very strong way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, Andy, from an organizational point of view, though, what is hindering our organizations, from transforming our economy?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question in the sense that I think if we look at an ecosystem macro environmental view and then blend that with what Shani has just presented, which is the people, the human capital, they go hand in hand. But I would highlight the following. I think if we think of the broader systemic challenges that we face at a country level, at a sector level, at a business level, that would include the following. First of all, to the point already made, we've got big challenges with the schooling system in that it does not prepare young people to be confident, to be proactive, to come into the world of work with the life skills that they really need in order to be able to learn and in order to be able to work confidently. And so that's got to be bridged through some form of work readiness training or gap closing training and on-the-job training. They need a lot of support. So a lot to be done there. I think, as has been said, our world has changed and we use technology a lot just to interact with each other like we're doing now in a virtual panel session. And yet so many young people from marginalized communities don't have digital access. They don't have the infrastructure. They can't afford the costs of data. They can't access, content to learn from. They can't access work to perform online. And so access to these digital resources at a school and post-school, whether you're learning or working, are really, really important. And currently they are impediments to our transformation. I think also related to the first point is that we don't have enough capacity in the country, at least not coordinated capacity, to provide that bridging training, to prepare young people for today and tomorrow's world of work, not yesterday's world of work. And to do that through focusing first and foremost on me, on the person, on dealing with my history, with who I am, with where I'm going, and my ability to engage and interact, with society and with the economy in that bridging. I think at a national level, we've got a disconnect in some ways between existing policies and the behaviors that they drive, and then the reality of what today and tomorrow's world of work is. We've heard it. We're in a very agile, rapidly changing world. And our policy frameworks, while being reconsidered, are not yet mirroring that reality of our world of work. I think, the skilling backlog that we've got requires tremendous amount of funding. And not that there isn't a lot of money flowing into skills development. DHETS, in their 2022 budget have planned 130 billion rand in the post-school education and training environment. That's a lot of money, but it doesn't seem to be having the impact on equipping communities and young people and company to respond to these changes. And so accessing that funding for demand-led initiatives is something that we've got to become better at doing. It's an impediment right now. And then I think we heard about pedagogy and how things need to change. And there's definitely a cultural shift in the way that we learn that needs to take place. We need to appreciate that there's a combination, which we don't have at the moment, of enabling young people in South Africa to self-direct their learning, but they must have access, they must have some guidance, to democratize learning, to give people access to learning for the things that they want to do and the things that they feel that they need to do, but to give them the insights in what are those, what are the jobs in high demand, so that they can go and focus on those rather than being guided, into a college or a university or a business environment with skills that are redundant or going to become redundant. And I think that we've got to equip people to take more ownership of that journey while we provide the support to them at a personal level and at a resource level. So I think those are some of the macro factors that are impeding our transformation, because they're impeding how we develop ourselves as people and how we can interact in this rapidly changing world.
Thank you, Andy. In my role as the Chair of Council of the University of Cape Town, one of the areas at UCT that we really identify is giving those practical skills, to be it youth or the community in general, so that when they walk into those boardrooms, they are well equipped. So we have what we call now a digital boot camp, which helps as much as possible in training and just give them short-term certificate so that they can participate meaningfully. But Sidwell, tell us then, once we train these people that Shani and Andy are talking about, how do we then internally, teams themselves, assist in transforming our own economy? You are employed now. You have to play a meaningful role. How do you do that?
So, look, skills development is the foundation. It's quite central in terms of enabling transformation at an organizational level and obviously at a macro level. And I think as organizations, we need to understand that, we've got throughput who are prepared to a certain level, and we've got the role to play as organizations. So a case in point, as merchants, we've set up the Merchants Academy, and the view is to say we need to ease the transition of the new entrants into employment into our space, because we do understand that much as they've got certification, they've got qualifications, they've never been to the world of work, and then there's a need for them to be introduced, purposefully through a structured programs rather into the world of work. So that's what exactly we do through the Merchants Academy, through a range of programs. Our programs are geared towards developing the core of our capabilities, because those are quite critical and central, to enabling productivity, and growth. And over and above that, it's through the interventions which we have internally, where we are in a position to ensure that there's a pipeline which is flowing effectively, to ensure that, as and when positions become available, we are in a space where we can, fill, those senior roles, internally. So that's the space which, we play in terms of, ensuring that, there's a smooth integration of, the unemployed into our space. But as soon as they are in our space, we have a responsibility in terms of continually developing them and giving them, the best of skills to be at their best. And when we see that when they are supported, they become effective and they become more productive, and in turn, they grow into senior roles. And we've got quite a number of people who have demonstrated, that capability. Some of them, interestingly, as we engage with them, try to understand their interest. They want to get into the entrepreneurial space, but yet they start in our space, and we are able to, through our supplier enterprise development, provide them with that, opportunity and create an ecosystem through skills development, once again, which not only foster employment, but also, stimulate entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you, Sidwell. Nana, you have Sidwell, who said he is ready to train and develop our people and transform our economy, But what I have found, Nana, is that in business, as corporate, we are frustrated. There is a very strong demand for skill, and as a result, I've seen the bank. I'm the CEO of a stockbroking business called Sinayo Securities. So we play in the derivative space and also in the, we have insurance and asset management business. So I've seen in the financial services in particular, and if I can mention banks, looking for skills out of the country. They would go to India to in-source some of the skills, and something that I think should be found here in South Africa. Why do we have that gap? What are these skills that are problematic? Just share with the people as to which skills do they need to develop so that they can respond to the corporate world and be able, therefore, to feed the needs of the of South African business.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Babalwa. And just to echo Shani's sentiments earlier on and what Cyril has just touched on in terms of the skills that are in demand, you know, and I don't want to harp on COVID-19, but it really taught us a lot, and it has given us a lot, though some were negative, but it has given us a lot of positive things that we can actually take away. And if we look at COVID-19, the one skill that was quite important and in demand was digitization. You need to have, you know, the skill and acumen to actually perform your work with ease when things were actually automated. From a digital perspective and having digital natives, we've seen that, however, the most prominent skills that are very necessary have been the softer skills. These are skills that cannot be automated. You know, somebody else cannot replicate them because only Babalwa can do this thing in this particular way once you then develop yourself with that softer skill. And the most prominent ones that I really want to touch on for me would have been with COVID-19, people had been working, you know, in offices. And then we threw our people into this, if I can call it deep end, to say you need to now, in the next coming 2 weeks, work from home. And people had to that, from that immediate time, learn how to self-manage. People who hadn't been able to work from home, who never had the opportunity to do so, were expected to actually work from home and self-manage. But then in part, it also had the aspect of these leaders that have been used to bums in seat from a management perspective. They had to approach their leadership skills, you know, quite differently. How do you then instill trust? So those were the first two skills that, you know, if I can marry them together, that we saw coming forward. The second one that Shani also touched on was, you know, the ability to actually critically analyze data and solve complex problems. Like you stated earlier on, when we need skills in the banking segment, for argument's sake, we are going overseas, but we do have the necessary graduates, you know, within our economy. However, they're not skilled enough. We haven't equipped them enough to actually understand how to make use of the qualifications that they have, but supplement and complement them with the skills that we need, such as critically analyzing data so that you solve solutions. The other one that actually Cyril spoke about was change, you know, the ability to adapt to change. One of the things that we've done at Netstar as well is that we have actually factored every single change that happens within the organization at large with a change management program. And we assess what is the impact on our people? What is the impact on the wider business? What is the impact as well on the industry? And what are the skills that our people then need to continuously then have an ongoing change management mindset? And, you know, it's not necessarily a skill that we always, you know, think of when we think about skills, but it has proven with COVID-19 that change management and adaptability is very critical and key. And the last one that I actually want to touch on is another thing that we mentioned. People are then working online and being able to, you know, connect remotely with people that are overseas. And that's that ability to actually be aware of people's differences and cultural, you know, differences. Embrace diversity in thought, because that's where you are then able to engage and learn skills from your peers as well. So those are the skills really that I've found, you know, are critical for us to actually ensure that currently for 2022, we address the needs of the economy, the needs of the particular industries that we're in, but we also equip our people for the future to say, these are the skills that will then ensure that they carry you forward. So like I stated earlier on, you know, from an Netstar perspective, we've put change management as an ongoing program for everything that we do. But to Andy's point as well, there has to be a coordinated effort. And we've ensured that we've got a blended learning approach. So people, learn differently. Cyril also stated earlier on. And we ensured that, people can learn online. Do they have the necessary resources? So we then looked into Udemy. It's an online learning platform. Cyril stated earlier on, you may actually equip your people with these skills that they need now. However, they've got other aspirations, and we don't want to limit that learning potential. And that's where these learning platforms actually come into play. But other people learn through, action-based experiences. We also make use of that. And then the other thing is people also are still used to classroom-based facilitated training. So we need to engage people and ensure that all the skills that we then equip them with is actually from a coordinated perspective, and we round it up with these programs that actually then assist them in engaging and ensuring that they get the skills that they need for the current and the future as well.
Thank you, Shani. Thank you, Nana. Sorry, thank you very much. Shani, we are left with few minutes, maybe in a minute, just share with us some of the programs that you have implemented that have worked successfully in your business in terms of developing us.
Okay, I'm going to use one example quickly because for time, then we can get through it. So I do mentoring and financial coaching as well. I have a pharmacist lady who was retrenched and has been unemployed for the last 3 years. Now, the pharmaceutical sector is a very strange sector, and you cannot get employment in there anymore. It's very oversaturated. So she's sitting with depression. She's sitting with unfulfillment. She's got no direction. She's got some sort of a vision. She doesn't know what she wants to do. She doesn't know what else she can do. She's stuck. She came to book 6 sessions with me. We're down to session number 4 this coming Saturday. It took 10 days of my interventions to help her move from where she was stuck, to enable her to see a new way. And she's planning to open a business, which I have promised her I will invest in if she follows through on the program and runs through with the neurological change dynamic that I've put in place for her. Using her pharmaceutical knowledge, skills, and qualifications in a different way outside of the pharmaceutical field.
Wow, wow. Thank you, Shani. That was very, very useful. Andy, any of the solutions that you would like to suggest? Something that has worked for you?
Well, I think when we think of the value chain of skills development, there are a few I'd like to call out that our colleagues have mentioned, and I also want to just, flag the work that the Merchants Academy do, because I think they take they look at this in a holistic way. So, if we think of 3 focus areas, first of all, you need to focus on what skills your company needs, which are ever changing, and we talked about that. So those core capabilities. Secondly, you're part of a community, so you need to focus on the broader ecosystem and the upliftment of those skills to ensure that your own pipelines are enhanced and are ready to come into your work environment. Now, what are the programs that can help to do that? I think it's a combination today. So first of all, giving people more exposure to content that they can manage on their own. So platform-based learning that's self-directed, that's more democratized, that supports lifelong learning. But you can't perfect certain skills online. So you need to complement that with workplace learning. So work integrated learning, which we don't have enough of, through internships, through hands-on work in the job environment, is critical to build confidence on the job, and show that you've got the skill to execute those tasks. We need to, at the same time, also look at the blend of these, because we need to be more agile, we need to be more responsive, and it's not one or the other. It's very situational and it's blended. And if I reflect on what at an industry level, for example, BPS is doing, they work with their government, social and company partners to do all of those, to support company-specific programs where they match demand to supply. So young people are moving into a learning opportunity, a working and earning opportunity. At a more macro level, they complement that with platform-based learning so that you can uplift the overall level of skills in that community. And then companies need to, really focus on what their own specific skill requirements are based on their jobs, which are ever evolving and ever changing. So I think those are some of the key call-outs I'd like to make, and then just to emphasize the point that's been made. This can't be done in isolation. It needs to be done as a collaborative effort by government, by business, by social partners. It needs to be coordinated. But you need organizations like yours, like merchants, which take a holistic approach. No one can be in it only for themselves. Everybody's got to be in it for everybody else. And collectively, society and our economy will transform, will benefit, and will become a better place for everybody.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much. Sidwell?
So I think I would like to begin by saying, strategy without tactics, it's the slowest route to, victory. And tactics without strategy, it's noise before defeat. At macro level, we've got strategy, as in, the skills development strategy, transformational strategies and policies. At company level, we're good in crafting these policies, but we need tactics which will align to the strategies and give us the results. If you look at our throughput in terms of education and training in the country, it's quite great. And I think what we do best is to ensure that the programs which conceptualize and deliver, they demonstrate, 100% absorption. And I'll give an example. We've embedded as part of our strategy, Yes for Youth, providing, youth with experience. And of the 3 cohorts we had 100% absorption. We partnered with our industry association, PEPESA. We partnered with our industry association, KBPO, and we implemented learnerships, and that translated into 100%, absorption. And that, in a way, demonstrate, demand-led skills, development interventions. And I think the recipe to it is, work integrated, learning, which should be embedded as part of, the learning methodologies in the different settings, be it, at corporate academies, be it at TVET, be it at, higher education institutions. And I'm saying this from experience because I'm a product of an internship program, coming out of the university, and I see how useful are those, initiatives in terms of ensuring transition into the world of work. So I think that there's quite a few which we can do, but yeah, we just need a collaborative effort, as Andy has indicated, in areas where in areas of transformation and where we are to make difference to society. There's no space for us to compete, but I think the only space available is for us to collaborate.
Interesting comments there from all the panelists. Thank you, Sidwell. Thank you, Nana. Thank you, Andy. And thank you to you, Shani. I know you've put a lot of effort and time in preparing for this session. Colleagues and friends in the room, it's all in your hands now. You have had thought from the most experienced people who have walked this road, who have developed others. And I guess one of the few takeaways from this session is that we can do it. We can increase the supply. We do have talent in South Africa to develop. We don't have to look too far, and we have capabilities, we have resources internal. Let's coordinate, let's partner, let's work together to serve our society. And remember, again, as you play your part, make sure that it has both the economic and the social impact. We need that more than ever today in our country. Thanks to everyone for your participation today and for listening to us. I am going to hand you over to Refilwe now. We will see you in the Q&A session at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Over to you, Refilwe.